Utah is one of more than 30 states that has banned TikTok on government devices. Now the state is taking the law one step further. Governor Spencer Cox recently signed a bill that requires kids under 18 to receive parental or guardian consent to use social media. The law also gives parents access to their kids' posts, messages, and responses. Minors will be blocked from using their accounts from 10:30 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. So far, this is the strictest online safety law proposed at the state level. For more on this, let's bring in Dr. Michael Rich. He's the founder and director of the Digital Wellness Lab at Boston Children's Hospital. It's a center that studies the positive and negative effects of digital media on young people. Dr. Rich, let's start with just a basic grounding question. What do your findings show about what's both good and then what's bad about social media?
Well, we had a wonderful natural experiment when COVID-19 locked us all in our houses for a year. And we found a lot of things out about social media, including the fact that for both the children and the parents of those children, the majority said it was a lifeline. It was a way to stay connected with friends and distant family. It was a way to actually have conversations in a very tense and anxiety-producing time. But there were also problems with it, of course, because it accelerated many of the problems that already existed in the kids' behavior in online spaces. Cyberbullying went up, as did a lot of support for cyberbullies. So I think it was really a mixed bag, and we learned a lot very quickly, but it didn't cause problems so much as served as an accelerant and amplifier of both the problems and the positives that occurred already.
So for parents who are concerned about how to get this balance right, what did you find? What did your findings show about the most effective approach adults could take in this tricky relationship with their kids and social media?
Well, I think it's important to recognize that these are power tools. Smartphones are power tools, just like a chainsaw or an automobile, that parents need to introduce to their children when their child actually needs that power tool, and when the parent in their best judgment feels that the child can be responsible with it and show respect for themselves and others around it. And then to introduce it in a way that's shared. We've taken a very lazy approach to this and sort of checked out of our children's digital lives, and they've taken full advantage of it. But we have to recognize that kids don't have the executive function to really regulate themselves and to control impulses online. So we need to be present in their digital lives just as we are present in their physical lives. And we have to recognize that these kids live in one seamless environment between the digital and the physical, and take the same parenting approaches and the same parenting strategies really in the digital space as we do in physical space.
As a parent of former teenagers, I have some personal experience with how they respond, but anecdotes is not what we're about here. So what did your studies actually show about how adolescents feel about these safety features, whether they're implemented by social media platforms or by parents? How do they respond?
Well, what's interesting is the way we talk about it. We talk about parental controls, and there's no kid on the face of this earth that wants to be controlled by their parents. What we are finding is that when parents are engaged with their children, when they mentor them, frankly, learning from the kids how a lot of these things work, but at the same time being present to bring in some of that responsibility and some of that executive function to understand that these actions that they take on screen will have implications, not just in the short term, but in the long term. So I think that the most important thing is to keep a door open, keep communication open, keep listening to your kids, and be brave in saying, listen, that's just not cool. You're going to, really struggle with that. Think about what that would feel to you, how that would feel to you if someone said that to you.
And finally, very quickly, Doctor, bans. What's your feeling and opinion about banning some of these platforms?
I think they won't work. I just did a podcast with Sanjay Gupta where he asked his daughter, and she said, well, they can wipe out TikTok in the United States, but we'll just get a VPN into Canada and keep doing it.
Yeah, yes, we have a few VPN accounts in my household, Dr. Michael Rich. Thank you so much.
Thank you.